Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast is the second part of our series on the 2023 Responsible Tech Youth Power Fund cohort, episode 106. And as usual, we'll start off with an introduction. Continuing our foray into the 26 organisations who secured grant funding for their technology-based projects, we are once again going to look at two more non-profits from the 2023 cohort. Grants announced on the 3rd of August 2023. The two in the spotlight this week are Five Rights Foundation and the Centre for Intimacy Justice. We'll start off with Five Rights Foundation. Five Rights Foundation, the brainchild of Baroness Beban Kidron, started as a set of principles that would reimagine the digital world as a place children and young people were afforded their existing right to participate in the digital world creatively, knowledgeably and fearlessly. Endorsed and informed by academics, parents, policymakers, teachers and healthcare professionals, these principles were also shaped by what children and young people told us they needed from the digital world to thrive. In 2018, Five Rights developed from an idea into an organisation. Now, an internationally active, non-governmental, non-profit, charitable organisation, Five Rights Foundation is headquartered in London with an office in Brussels, which opened in early 2021. The annual reports can be found on the website, and there is a link to those documents at the end of the article. Let's have a look at the team. And although I haven't gone into a lot of detail with each of the team members, what I have included is enough to give you an overall picture, if you like, of the aims and objectives of the organisation and what kind of things they're involved in. So let's have a look at the team. Oh, and I will add that there is far more detail in the article that accompanies this podcast with the against each of the staff members, consultants, commissioners, directors, and trustees. Baroness Beban Kidron, OBE, is the founder and chair of Five Rights. She is a crossbench member of the House of Lords and sits on the Democracy and Digital Technologies Committee. She is a commissioner for UNESCO's Broadband Commission for Sustainable Development, where she is a member of the Working Group on Child Online Safety, a member of UNICEF's AI Group, and sits on the Council on Extended Intelligence. Duncan McCann is Head of Accountability at Five Rights. Duncan joined Five Rights from the New Economics Foundation, where he led the Digital Economy Programme. Duncan has a legal background, as well as a decade working in the tech industry for Cisco Systems. Dr. Krukai Potong is a researcher at Five Rights and a visiting research fellow in the Department of Media and Communications at London School of Economics and Political Science. Her research spans the areas of human-computer interaction, digital ethics, data protection, internet, and other related policies. She specialises in designing social technical research, using deliberative methods to elicit human values and expectations of technological advances, such as the Internet of Things, referred to as IoT, and distributed ledgers. Leander Barrington Leach is the Director of International Advocacy and Head of European Affairs at Five Rights. Leander joined Five Rights from the European External Action Service, where she was advisor to the Secretary-General, focusing on strategic communications and the fight against disinformation. She previously worked in EU advocacy as a consultant and for non-profits, always with a focus on human rights. Leander volunteers as an advisor to Plan International, supporting their work on children's rights in EU foreign policy. Andrea Tagnoni is a head of EU affairs at Five Rights. Andrea is an EU law and foreign policy expert with extensive experience working on regulatory issues and policy communications at the EU and international levels. Andrea formerly led the trade practice at SEC Newgate EU. He has worked for the EU delegation to the United Nations and other international organisations in Geneva, as well as the global NGOs and think tanks. A qualified lawyer, Andrea holds a JD from Barcelona University and an LLM in Public International Law from Leiden University. An Italian native, he speaks English, Spanish and French. Marie-Eve Nadeau is International Advocacy Officer at Five Rights. She joined the team in 2021 with her strong experience advocating for human rights at the FIDH, the International Federation for Human Rights, and volunteering at the UNDP's Environmental Governance Programme. She has a background in human rights and European Union policy. Originally from Canada, Marie-Eve has lived in several countries and is fluent in English, Spanish and French, and she's currently learning Dutch. Marisa Shee is the US Senior Policy Manager at Five Rights. Marisa brings with her extensive knowledge of the legislative process and children and youth policy. She joined Five Rights from the California Senate Human Services Committee, where she served as chief consultant. Prior to that, Marisa was counsel to the California Senate Judiciary Committee and a policy advocate for the California Court Appointed Special Advocates Association. Marisa received her Bachelor of Science degree from the Casanova College and her Juris Doctor from University of the Pacific, McGeorge School of Law. Nicole Rocha is the head of US Affairs at Five Rights. Nicole brings with her extensive knowledge of the legislative process and data policy. She joined Five Rights from the California Assembly Privacy and Consumer Protection Committee, where she served as chief consultant. Prior to that, Nicole was counsel to the California Senate Judiciary Committee. Nicole received her Bachelor of Arts degree from UC Berkeley and her Juris Doctor from UC Davis. Nicola White is the executive assistant to Baroness Kidron. She was a part of the production team for the film Victoria and Abdul, produced by Kidron, and has been involved in Five Rights since its inception in 2014. Previously, she worked at Tiger Aspect Productions. Professor Sonia Livingston, OBE, is a member of the UNCRC General Comment Steering Group. Sonia is a professor of social psychology in the Department of Media and Communications at the London School of Economics and Political Science. She has published 20 books on media audiences, media literacy and media regulation, with a particular focus on the opportunities and risks of digital media for children and young people. Alexandra joins the Five Rights Foundation as a consultant, having previously been its Chief of Strategy She has worked at TikTok, Director of Safety Public Policy, Europe, and at the British Board of Film Classification as a Policy Director, before specialising in child online safety policy. Alexandra was a solicitor in Mishcon de Reyes' public advocacy team. Five Rights has three areas of work: data and privacy, child-centred design and children's rights. These are interconnected and indivisible. Only when we treat children's data with the utmost care, design products and services in a way that anticipates their presence, and observe the full range of their protection and participation, rights will have built the digital world that young people deserve. The heading Design of Service. The enormous potential of technology will only be realised when it is designed with children and young people in mind. The problem? The digital services that children and young people use are not designed to meet their needs or uphold their rights. Many services simply ignore the presence of a child users under 18. Altogether, design decisions are driven more by the commercial requirement for data than by advanced consideration of a child's best interests. Where design decisions are taken to promote their welfare online, they often come after the fact, provoked more by tragedy and public outrage than by any prior assessment of the impact on children and young people. The failure to anticipate the presence, rights and needs of children and young people by design and default severely limits the potential of digital technology as a positive force in their lives. Solution. Companies must design digital services that cater for vulnerabilities, needs and rights of children and young people by default. To fulfill its potential, digital technologies must be directed towards children and young people's flourishing. Retrofitting safety features into a service only after under 18-year-olds have experienced harm or allowing their rights to be routinely undermined is simply not good enough. Crucially, this principle of advanced consideration must apply to all the digital services that children and young people are likely to access in reality, not just those services that are specifically targeted at them. Meeting the needs of childhood development or delivering on children's rights is not optional. Governments and policymakers need to prioritise the development of robust standards for the design and development of digital technology and regulate to require that children's safety, rights and privacy are upheld by design and default. The next section of their work, Child Online Protection. In the digital age, childhood is lived online and offline seamlessly and simultaneously. Failing to protect children and young people in one environment threatens their safety in all environments. The problem. Children and young people are disproportionately affected by the risks of the digital world, given both their developmental vulnerabilities and their status as early adopters of emerging technologies. They are canaries in the coal mine for threats to us all. Despite this, the protection that children and young people enjoy as norms in the offline world do not meaningfully exist online. The digital sector defends its exceptional status as unregulated and unregulatable. Governments around the world have yet to legislate for the online protection of children and young people from content risks. For example, exposure to harmful or age-inappropriate material. Contact risks. For example, exposure to unsolicited contact from adults. Conduct risks. For example, cyberbullying. And contract risks. For example, data harvesting, commercial pressure, and exhortations to gamble. This lack of coherent, comprehensive child online protection legislation, both at a global level and within individual jurisdictions, has seen the introduction of products and services that pay little regard to and assume no liability for the welfare of children and young people. Solution. Digital service providers must be held accountable and liable for the welfare of children and young people. Simply put, the protection of children and young people's well-being is the price of doing business. Countries must be proactive in introducing legislation in both their own jurisdictions and internationally. The European Union, the UK, and California have all recently demonstrated that jurisdictional action is more than capable of driving global norms. In addition to introducing new regulation and legislation, there is an urgent need to apply and enforce existing laws, rights and safeguarding obligations to the digital world. Next section of 5 Rights work. Children and young people's rights. The UN Convention of the Rights of the Child, UNCRC, was first introduced over 30 years ago, setting out the conditions in which a child under 18 might flourish. The problem. Where innovators and policymakers have sought to support children and young people online, they have focused narrowly on harm, rather than on promoting their wider flourishing. This ignores the fact that children's and young people's rights are balanced and multifaceted, entitling them to both autonomy over their own lives and development, and to participation in society more broadly. In an interconnected world, if children and young people's rights are not upheld in one environment, they are denuded in all environments. The enormous potential of digital technology will only be realized when it is proactively directed towards the promotion of children and young people's rights, rather than retroactively adapted or deployed merely to protect their safety. Solution. Children and young people's rights must be embedded and upheld in the digital environment by design and default. Next heading, Digital Futures Commission. The Digital Futures Commission is dedicated to placing children's interest at the centre of the design of the digital world. 5 Rights' ambitious research programme, led by Professor Sonia Livingston, OBE, has been guided by a group of commissioners with expertise in how children and digital technology intersect. Over the 3-year duration of the Commission, our focus has been on driving real-world change for children and young people. And I would just like to add here that in the article you will see the phrase ambitious research programme and the word commissioners highlighted, and that is because it is linked directly to the website where you will be taken to that research programme, and you will see information about the work of the commissioners. In the article, I do actually list them, and there are photographs as they are similarly to all the staff and people involved. But I've only given a couple of lines against each name, but on the website, when you follow these links for those two things, you'll be taken to the full programmes. Discover all their outputs, findings and resources on the website, and join in shaping a better digital future for children and young people. And the full final report, the link for that is also at the end of the article, and if you go straight to the website anyway, you will find it. But if you go from the article, it will take you straight to that final report. A few details on the trustees, but as I've just said, far more detail on the website and in the article. Dr. Amani Abu Zaid is the African Union Commissioner in charge of infrastructure, energy, ICT and tourism, with over 30 years work experience in Africa. An Egyptian national, she has a Bachelor of Science in Telecommunications Engineering, an MBA in Project Management, a Masters of Public Administration from Harvard School of Government, and a PhD in Social and Economic Development from University of Manchester, UK. Dr. Abu Zaid was decorated with Sam al-Alawi by H.M. King Mohammed of Morocco and selected one of the 50 most influential women in Africa. She joined global leaders as Commissioner to the Broadband Commission for Sustainable Development, as well as the Global Commission on Energy. She said, "Our children have the right to a safe, present and bright future. In this digital age, we need to work together to provide them with adequate digital literacy and a safe cyberspace." Another trustee, Dr. Ansgar Cohen, is a global AI ethics and regulatory leader at Ernst & Young, where he leads the AI-related public policy team and contributes to the work on AI governance and Ernst & Young's trusted AI framework. Ansgar chairs the IEEE Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers Working Group on a standard for algorithmic bias considerations and is a convener for the CEN, ELEC, AI Committee's work on AI conformity assessment. He collaborated with Five Rights Foundation on the project The Internet on Our Own Terms, where young people aged 12 to 17 participated in deliberative juries to put the Internet on trial. A quote from the doctor: "As a professional working on issues of data ethics and ethical uses of algorithmic systems, working with Five Rights has provided invaluable insights into the experiences of children and young people online. Five Rights takes a rigorous, evidence-based approach to supporting the rights of children and young people online by listening to their voices and recognizing their diversity." Baroness Helena Kennedy, QC, is a leading barrister and expert in human rights law issues and civil liberties. She is a member of the House of Lords and chairperson of Justice. She has acted in prominent legal cases, including the Brighton Hotel bombing. Michael Bettany espionage, and the Guildford 4 appeal. She also played a crucial role in getting a Human Rights Act into Labour's 1997 manifesto and into statute. She was the chair of the British Council for 6 years. As principal of Mansfield College, Oxford, she established a Human Rights Institute to increase public and academic understanding of the field. And a quote from the Baroness: "Five Rights is a vital and brilliant new NGO addressing the whole issue of ethical standards on the internet with regards to children. I am so proud to be involved." Elizabeth Denham, CBE, brings extensive international regulatory expertise to Five Rights. She served as a UK Information Commissioner from 2016 to 2021, following a decade of roles as a data protection and information rights regulator in Canada. As Information Commissioner for the UK, she built and led the largest data protection regulator in the world and chaired the Global Privacy Assembly, International Forum of Data Protection Commissioners, from 2018 to 2021. She is committed to making digital technologies and data work for the benefit of society. Under her leadership, the ICO embarked on some of the most daunting cross-border investigations on the misuse of individuals' data, including her investigation into political micro-targeting and election interference, data brokers and credit reporting agencies, and use of facial recognition technology by commercial firms and the police. She is passionate about the ethical and safe collection, storage, and use of data. A highlight of her time at the ICO was drafting the first Privacy by Design statutory children's code, a set of 15 enforceable standards to protect children's safety and agency online. This code is having global impact as technology companies and services making meaningful changes to their services to comply with the rigorous standards in the UK code. In the 2019 New Year's Honours List, Elizabeth was awarded a CBE for her services to protecting people's privacy. In 2020, she received the BCS Society Medal, which recognises an outstanding individual whose work and values have helped to enhance the reputation of digital technology and its contribution to improving our lives. In 2021, she received an honorary doctorate from the University of Victoria for international leadership in information rights. Manuel Costescu, Treasurer, is CEO, Europe for DF Capital, a financial institution providing working capital to SMEs. Prior to his current role, he advised on impact investment strategies for the EBRD Global Harvester, a low-carbon economy merchant bank. He also acted as head of investments at Open Society Foundation, Soros Economic Development Fund. In 2016, he was nominated Secretary of State for Trade and Investment and was subsequently elected as a member of the Romanian Parliament. Prior to this, Manuel was an executive director with JP Morgan's Corporate and Investment Bank and a consultant for McKinsey. Manuel holds a Master's in Business Administration from the Sloan School of Management at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a Master's in International Development from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. And a quote from Manuel is, "As a father of 3 children, I live every day with the ever-present virtual reality permeating family life. It is a privilege to be able to work with gifted people on ensuring that whatever the digital future brings, we would have been deliberate about it. Peter Wallace has been Chief Executive of NSPCC, the UK's leading child protection charity, since 2013. He was previously the Big Lottery Fund's Chief Executive and Director at the Department for Education from 1998 to 2008. He is on the Royal Foundation's Task Force for the Prevention of Cyberbullying. And a quote from Peter: "Childhood shapes who we become. Abuse never should. That is why I feel so strongly that children's rights must apply online as well as offline. So the wonderful opportunities afforded by digital technology help children flourish, rather than subject them to potentially devastating and unnecessary risk." Rhiannon Lawson is a Director of Service Design and Technology Standards at the Government Digital Service. Rhiannon leads the development of technology policy and guidance, which supports the UK Government to buy, build and reuse technology and build accessible services which meet user needs. Rhiannon is the lead on the government cloud policy and has supported governments around the world to create technology and cloud strategies. Rhiannon regularly speaks at schools and universities to encourage children and young people into STEM jobs to continue the diversification of the industry. Shoshana Zuboff is the author of the books In the Age of the Smart Machine, The Future of Work and Power, and the Support Economy, Why Corporations Are Failing Individuals, and the Next Episode of Capitalism, co-authored with James Maxman. The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, The Fight for a Human Future at the New Frontier of Power, integrates her lifelong themes: the digital revolution, the evolution of capitalism, the historical emergence of psychological individuality, and the conditions for human development. Dr. Tawela Nyarenda Jher, Vice Chair, works in the Regional Integration, Infrastructure and Trade Programme at the NEPAD Planning and Coordinating Agency as a Principal Programme Officer, focusing on policy, legal and regulatory aspects of infrastructure development. She has 20 years of experience working in the private sector, academia and international development. She holds a PhD in electrical engineering, networking and telecommunications, a Master of Arts in Contemporary Diplomacy, Internet Governance, an ACCA Diploma in Financial Management, and is a Qualified Project Management Professional, PMP. She continues to advocate for increased awareness among African policymakers of the importance and significance of infrastructure and ICT development, internet governance, and policy processes at national and continental level. A quote from the Doctor: "The significance of the work that Five Rights undertakes in promoting the rights of children and young people online cannot be overstated. In an ever-increasing connected and online world, ensuring that children and young people are adequately protected in their digital interactions is paramount, and Five Rights is leading the way, not only for the UK, but globally as well." The supporters. On the Five Rights Foundation website, it says this: "We have many formal and informal partnerships with organisations and individuals who support our work in many different ways. We would not exist without the funding we receive from our core set of philanthropic organisations to carry out our work. We are grateful for the generous pro bono support we receive from legal firms and communication agencies, which enhances our work and organisation. We have many varied and invaluable partnerships with academics, regulators, the media, civil servants, other charities and international NGOs, all of whom make the Five Rights team far richer, broader and more impactful. We are hugely grateful to each of them and share our success with those individuals, organisations and funders who boldly support us. International work. We live in a global digital world. No matter where children live, we believe they deserve to be safe online, and that international cooperation is key. Five Rights Foundation is committed to sharing its knowledge and educating others, determined to create the safe digital world that children deserve. We have developed a series of educational materials and guidelines for any interested audience, including legislators, regulators and tech companies, co-created with children, academics and engineers to drive new and innovative ways to protect children in the digital world. An example of this is the age-appropriate design code. Five Rights founder Baroness Biban Kidron introduced the age-appropriate design code, which UK legislators adopted into UK law in 2020. The AADC has inspired legislators and policymakers around the world, including in Australia, Indonesia, the EU, Canada, Argentina and California, which in 2022 adopted its own AADC. That's the end of the section on the Five Rights Foundation. I hope you found that interesting, and I really hope you found it inspirational. I did, and that's just a summary of what's on the website. So let's move on to our second exciting and again inspirational Centre for Intimacy Justice. Jackie Rotman is the founder and CEO of Centre for Intimacy Justice. Jackie led an investigation that was published in 2022 in the New York Times and 80 media outlets, illuminating that of 60 women's health businesses interviewed or surveyed, 100% of them experienced Facebook or Instagram rejecting their ads. Within months of this investigation being published, Meta changed multiple of its global advertising policies toward sexual health. Jackie holds an MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business, MPA from Harvard Kennedy School, and a BA in Public Policy with University Distinction from Stanford. Jackie's writing or investigation on women's sexuality have been featured in the New York Times 3 times, including through an investigative op-ed she wrote in 2019. Vaginas Deserve Giant Ads Too, which was the opinion section's display piece in print. And Jackie has also written creative non-fiction in the Boston Globe magazine. Jackie founded her first non-profit at the age of 14. Everybody Dance now called Creative Network, and has headed 3 non-profit organisations. Creative Network has offered free dance programs as a platform for self-esteem and community to more than 30,000 youth across the United States. During her MBA, Jackie worked in women's health, investing with RIA Ventures, then called Reproductive Health Investors Alliance, and for a Silicon Valley venture capital fund, on investments in contraception, technology and online education. Jackie speaks around the world on topics including digital censorship of sexual and reproductive rights, and other topics at the intersections of sexuality and technology. She regularly briefs US senators, state attorneys general, and technology and human rights leaders on the finding of CIJ's investigations. The Advisory Board. Teresa Younger, President and CEO of the Foundation for Women. Teresa is an activist, advocate, renowned public speaker, organisational strategist and a proven leader in the philanthropic and policy sectors, having spent over 20 years on the front lines of some of the most critical battles for comprehensive equity and the elimination of institutionalised oppression. She now serves as the President and CEO of the MS Foundation for Women. Polly Rodriguez, co-founder and CEO of Unbound. Polly Rodriguez is taking the female wellness industry by storm. As the CEO and co-founder of Unbound, a rebellious brand focused on making sexual health and wellness accessible to all women and non-binary people. Jess Field, Assistant Director, Cyber Law Clinic, Berkman Klein Centre. Jessica Field focuses her legal practice on issues impacting digital media and art. She also works specifically with cases regarding intellectual property, freedom of expression, privacy and related human rights issues, contract and corporate law. Recently, she has emphasised work with AI-generated art, the overlap of existing rights and ethics frameworks on emerging technologies, and legal issues confronted by digital archives. Christina Lundberg, co-founder and partner. The Case for Her. Christina is a co-founder of The Case for Her, a philanthropic investment portfolio addressing the key women's health issues of menstruation and female sexual health. Wendy Anderson, co-founder and partner, The Case for Her. Wendy is a co-founder of The Case for Her, a philanthropic investment portfolio addressing the key women's health issues of menstruation and female sexual health. Natalie Conneely, founder, Hollywood Compassion Coalition and development expert. Natalie was born in the lowland jungles of eastern Bolivia in the heart of South America. She spent the first 13 years of her professional life in business and non-profit development, raising more than $70 million for companies like CNN International, universities and non-profits around the world. Jackie Zubsik, Head of Communications, Tusk Strategies. Jackie is the Head of Communications at Tusk Strategies, where she develops and executes strategic campaigns across the country and around the globe. Emma Lykin, Responsible Technology Portfolio Lead, Omidyar Network. Emma is a human rights advocate and technologist with a commitment to belonging, information integrity, safety and inclusion, both online and off. This next section is headed up as the team. I am very quickly going to go through all of the people listed because I don't want to leave any out, but I will only be doing very small sections from each of each of them have got quite detailed paragraphs in their section. I won't be able to go through all of those, but you can read through all of those online. But as I said, I don't want to miss any of the staff out, and we will go now through the team. First one, Chloe Stoddard, Programme Manager. Chloe is a passionate advocate for intersectional gender justice and sexual and reproductive health and rights. She is a graduate of Stanford University, where she earned a BA with honours in International Relations and Human Rights, and is the recipient of the Dinkelspiel Award for Distinctive contributions to undergraduate education. Carol Worsby, Chief of Staff. Carol is a global health professional and sexual and reproductive health and rights advocate. With a background in SRHR and immunisation supply chain, Carol works at the intersection of health and equity. Carol has been with CIJ since 2019, and prior to her work with CIJ, she was supporting UNICEF's immunisation supply chain team in Copenhagen. Carol has also worked in law and policy, specifically addressing the needs of domestic abuse survivors in Los Angeles County. Sophia Zizuk, Strategy. Sophia is a strategic leader in the social sector with partnerships, strategy, programs and management experience spanning more than a decade. Her focus has been on equity and access to opportunity. From her work at ASEAN Opportunity Fund, Hello Alice and Kiva, collaborating with governments and corporations to make more inclusive economy, to the small business, Negotiate with Sophia, that she runs, that leverages social science research to support women, queer folk, BIPOC folk and others to negotiate higher incomes. Sophia devotes all her energy and expertise to building a more equitable future for everyone. Munira Saud, Research Consultant. Munira is a researcher advocate at the intersection of technology and feminist justice. She is currently a consultant researcher at CIJ, leading a project investigating the digital censorship of sexual health. Munira earned her BA in Computer Science from Brown University and an MSc in the Social Science of the Internet with distinction from the Oxford Internet Institute, where she studied as a Rhodes Scholar. Over the past year, she has also been a volunteer consultant at a tech abuse community clinic, where she meets with survivors of tech-mediated intimate partner violence to help uncover and end the abuse they are experiencing. And coming to the end of this second section, a little bit more about the Centre for Intimacy Justice. The Centre for Intimacy Justice, CIJ, is a feminist social change organisation committed to equality and well-being in people's love and sexual lives. CIJ is currently working to change discriminatory algorithms and policies that suppress access to information about health for women. In 2022, CIJ's research on Meta, published in the New York Times and 80 media outlets, cited by a US Senate Help Committee, and tweeted about by a former Secretary of State, was followed by Meta revising its written policies towards sexual and reproductive health and wellness. We are still working towards changes in the technological practices to allow these ads. In the last year, the Centre has expanded their team to a team of 8 women, 1 full-time, 7 part-time, and is working towards the following bullet points. File a Federal Trade Commission complaint calling on government action to enforce change at Meta, global change, even though with a US agency. Lead research on 4+ tech platforms that suppress women's health. Educate policymakers in Europe and the US with potential for policy algorithmic changes with global impact, and tech companies on the research findings. Communicate directly with tech platforms and lead global convening conversations. Speaking on 5 continents from 2022 to 2023 to effect change. there were 4 more consultants listed. I didn't find information on them, but the job titles are there, and it may well be that they are on the website, but I ran out of time. But I've still named them. I don't want to miss them out. I did find their names and their job titles, so I've put them there in the article. And to close off this section on the centre, it gives details of the 2 directors. Again, I've just done just a few lines for each one, but there is far more detail on their website. So the 2 directors that are listed: Amrita Sankar and Zach Breaker. Amrita is the investment advisor from North Star, and Zach Breaker is a CEO, Refine and Focus. So the few lines that I've put for Amrita from the website is this. Amrita is honoured to support the progressive, crucial work of the Centre for Intimacy Justice. Amrita currently works at North Star team as an investment advisor. Prior to North Star, Amrita worked for several years on the investments team of Impact Assets, a $1 billion advised fund that allows clients to make investments that are focused on social and environmental returns through their charitable assets. Zach's information is as follows. Zach is fortunate to contribute to CIJ and advance issues with which he's deeply aligned. With a passion for startups, community building, technology, mental health and mentoring, he's eager to help CIJ grow. Zach is the CEO of Refine and Focus, a Boston-based marketing and innovation consultancy. And that is the end of this week's podcast on our 2 organisations. The more I've gone through this list of organisations, I can see why they were successful in their grant bids. It is so impressive. And again, I have just really touched the surface. There's more information on the website, and I've given a series of links, direct links to different parts of the website and to organisations mentioned and people. So I hope you found that of interest. I hope you see, like me so far, why and how these non-profits have caught the eye of the funders. They are doing excellent work. Really impressive. So, that's it from me for this week. And as usual, I look forward to reading your comments after you hear this podcast and have the chance on the Monday onwards to read the article, which contains more details, more images and information for you to read at your leisure, various reports. So thank you once again for your support. It's bye from me. Bye from Ivy. Bye.